Hello, everyone, and welcome back. It is about time for our Masters matchup here at the Oceania International Championships, and it's time to talk to our competitors who've traveled all this way when they could have just faced each other 10 minutes from their homes. First off, we have Alberto Lara from the United States. And then Gavin Michaels from the United States as well. First off, heading into the finals, it was well fought to get to this point. How are you feeling with this matchup ahead of you?
I'm feeling around as comfortable as I can be. I think that it's favored for me, but the thing about this format is it has a lot of play to it, and you kind of got to be able to go for it. This isn't a format where you can just flow chart it out the night before and then have everything pre-rehearsed. You got to come here willing to play.
And then I know you were particularly worried about this matchup into this point. Now that you've had a night to sleep on it, how are you feeling going into today?
I feel calm. I mean, there's not that much pressure on me. I feel like the pressure's on Gavin a little bit more because he knows that he's more likely to win, but I feel like I have a game plan, and I actually do think I have a shot to win.
Let's go. Love to hear it. Now, getting to this point of competition, regardless, both finalists, what does it mean to be in this position?
This is insane. I don't know. I mean, I'm looking at the CP leaderboards, and it's oh, just go from number 40 to this. It's that's crazy to just be up here, especially against Alberto, because God, I mean, the first time I played Alberto he didn't actually show up. It was 2013 Arizona. He had to leave and drive a car in round 5 or something. It's just doing this 10 years later. That's just insane to me.
The history, gotta love it. And finalists as well. Same question, what does this mean to you?
Yeah, it means a lot, about that story. That was how me and Gavin actually met. I was 4-1, but at the time I was playing TCG still, and my TCG friends wanted to leave, so I couldn't finish the VGC tournament. So I just dropped at 4-1, and I gave Gavin basically the free win, and then that's how we met. And yeah, it would mean a lot to me. I mean, it's been about 5 years since I've been at an international at this top cut, basically, so it would mean a lot for me to win.
No, that's just amazing history right there. Last but not least, before we head into our match, any final words?
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to Lisa for all the support this weekend. Want to give a shout out to Tub, and I'm ready to do this.
No? Any final words?
For me, shout outs to everybody that's watching and supporting me, all my friends, and actually my mom and sister who are also watching but don't really know much about Pokemon, I believe.
Well, regardless, congratulations on making it to this point. And we're going to send it back to our casters to get started with our match.
Shout outs to all the family members that kind of passively support us, as they don't really know what's going on. I definitely feel that in my home my home life as well. They're all right, you're doing great. I don't know what's going on, but I think you did great.
Have you not tried to teach Ma about the ins and outs of competitive VGC?
Well, they were giant before in Sword and Shield, and now they're not giant. That was a little confusing, you know?
I'd actually love to have a sit down with your mother and see how much she knows about VG. I think that'd be one of the most entertaining conversations I could have.
All right, well, anyway, let's get back to Gavin Michaels and Alberto Lara. As Gavin mentioned, he has won a U.S. National Championship a very long time ago under a different tournament structure, mainly North Americans there, obviously, for U.S. Nationals. Alberto Lara finished second at an international already, so you can try to equate those two accomplishments however you want, but regardless, it just means that these are fantastic players at VGC.
Yeah, the former nationals is what has been replaced by the internationals as well, so definitely that same kind of level, but you're right, we didn't have as many players coming from around the world to compete in that one, but I do remember Gavin winning that event. It does feel like a very long time ago, and I'm sure he'd love to get back on top. But Alberto, certainly one of those people that just keeps appearing at these top tables and the final stages of these tournaments. A player that's also been around at an absolute age. Of course, we really do have to dive into it. They talked about it right in that video about the matchup. And let's just, I'm just going to pitch the question to you. I don't think we can
undersell it, Adam. This is a very difficult matchup for Alberto. His friends, I was speaking with some of his friends last night, and Gavin and Alberto actually practiced against each other before leaving for Australia. They did a bunch of practice sets. Alberto only won 20% of those sets. That's how dire of a potential matchup this can be.
The big issue, as they called it out, is that Baxcalibur, and I just don't know where the answer to the Baxcalibur is. It just looks, in such a good position to be able to kind of run over the game and cause those problems. But Of course, you have to imagine Alberto's gone away. He's had a whole night to sleep on it. And you like to think he's tried to come up with alternative and ingenious game plans. That is going to be something. Do you reckon they tested together again last night?
No, just to get it right. No, I don't think so. Gavin, though, we can see his accomplishments: a multiple-time, 3-time regional champion, the king of West Coast regionals with all of those accomplishments, and then that U.S. National Championship from 2013. And Alberto, this would be his largest victory to date. A player that is always in contention for winning the big tournaments, has regional championships under his belt, but nothing like winning OCIC here today.
It would be huge to step up from that LAIC finalist appearance in 2018 and take it as a champion. But of course, I don't think over the course of a career coming as a finalist twice is particularly anything to sniff at.
And what I think is really cool when we look at their teams is 8 of these 12 Pokemon are the only Pokemon in Top Cut. So, for example, for Alberto, the Corviknight, Klefki, Volcarona, and Garchomp are the only ones in the top 8. On Gavin's end, surprisingly, Amoonguss is the only on one of the 8 teams, so congrats to Gavin there. But Pelipper, Palafin, and Baxcalibur as well. And ingenuity is rewarded in VGC. Your creativity, bringing things your opponents are not expecting, usually works out well.
I liked Gavin's comment on it as well, that he bought something that people hadn't prepared for, but it's not like we haven't seen this pairing before. Palafin and Pelipper was really big in Series 1, so migrating that to Series 2, kind of riding the wave of, okay, people have stopped prepping for it, they're not expecting it, I'm going to sneak it in and be able to start causing problems that way. There is a lot of potential big damage options on Gavin's side, which are going to be certainly problematic, and something like that Roaring Moon definitely struggles against, the Baxcalibur, and, can kind of suffer at the hands of it a little bit.
It's also interesting on Alberto's end, if you just look at the progress of how VGC Scarlet and Violet has worked for him. He had a dip in the waters of Skeledirge as his fire type at the beginning. We'll cut him some slack for that. But after that, every single event, he has Volcarona, Corviknight, and Garchomp on all of his events. He had Grimmsnarl for the first 2, that turned into Klefki. He had Hydreigon, that has turned into Roaring Moon. This is how you iterate on a concept as the format evolves through different series.
It's been really smart, and the way he approaches it is kind of this very straightforward, use the Garchomp to clean up, which I really like. I think playing the Choice Scarf Garchomp definitely gives you this tricky end game for your opponent, right? If they don't have enough wiggle room, they can just get caught out by it and some of its moves. I don't know how you feel about it, but I feel like everyone had a try with Skeledirge at one point. After the release of Scarlet Violet, I was like, this is the best Pokemon. Turns out I might have been wrong on that, but I still think everyone deserves their chance at it.
Yeah, if one player could make it work, it would be Alberto. But we are going to hop right into Game 1 of Masters Finals here at the Oceania International Championships. Alberto, Lara leading the double steel core, Corviknight and Klefki against Iron Hands and Palafin on Gavin's side.
Yeah, you're really looking to, wall out something with this double steel type, but the Palafin and the Iron Hands really don't mind about it, right? The Palafin obviously wants to get out, get 0 to hero activated, but the Iron Hands feeling pretty good in this one as well. Looking down at that Corviknight, able to start hitting that nice and hard, taking some big chunks of damage, and yeah, Palafin just has to save itself for later.
Having to manually switch out so that when Palafin comes back in, it can be in its hero form and be a much bigger threat to Alberto's Pokemon. So Pelipper has to take that slot. Klefki is going to immediately click Reflect, which is going to help Alberto's team against physical attacks for the next 8 turns. And there is the Brave Bird, which is a neutral hit into Iron Hands. Only does a little bit of damage. Volt Switch, though, will hit onto Corviknight, and this allows Iron Hands to switch back into, say, a Palafin in the rain.
Absolutely crazy that this Palafin is going to be just set up at the end of turn 1. Usually it takes people a couple of turns, but Gavin leaning into that fantastic switching move, and of course its power even increased by the Pelipper as well. The Pelipper setting up the rain, making sure those water-type attacks, such as Wave Crash, are going to do so much damage, and I don't know if the Reflect is going to be enough. Of course, that is a smart move by Alberto. Get at the Reflect. You've seen the Palafin, you've seen the Iron Hands, you know it's physical attacks, you obviously want to buff yourself up against them, but Gavin is doing all he can to set himself up to overcome that very, very quickly. Of course, a lot of water-type attacks coming through on this turn.
Looked like Gavin double-targeted the Corviknight, so what is Alberto's response? Is it a switch? Is it potentially even a defensive terrestrialization, as Corviknight is a dragon terror type? It would resist that Wave Crash. However, with the Mystic Water and Wave Crash and the rain being up and hero form, there's really no such thing as a resisted hit from Palafin.
Every hit is just a big hit from the Palafin. I don't even think the resist helps out. Maybe resist and reflect is enough to try and get you there, but that is not going to be the case.
But you might not be able to get any damage if the Thunder Wave works, so it does connect from Klefki. Palafin has the potential to be paralyzed every single turn, and it's going to be slower. Hydro Pump in the rain just completely takes down the Corviknight. The boost to water attacks while the rain is up is what able to get that knockout. And here's a Wave Crash. Reflect is up, sure, but Klefki's going to take all of that with the critical hit. Crikey, what a crit at him.
What a turn for Gavin. Just completely turns up the heat and says, you know what, now is my time to get the knockouts. I see Alberto's out. Thunder Wave, if Palafin can't move, you can't get Wave Crash, right? And all of those calculations we were talking out are out of the window. But it gets to move, it gets to land the attack, and honestly, the combination with the Hydro Pump as well, I mean, we sometimes underestimate just how much a Pelipper can do, but in the rain, those Hydro Pumps are hitting, and they are taking knockouts. This is a 4-2 Pokemon advantage right now for Gavin Michaels. Obviously, if his Palafin starts getting slowed down by the paralysis, there is a bit of wiggle room for Alberto to get in. You know, could try and get the Palafin as well by just moving before it. It is going to get Freeze Dry on the Pelipper.
That's 4 times super effective. Of course, Pelipper does have a Focus Sash, though, so it's going to hang on with 1 HP. Any other attack would go into it, would be able to knock it out, and the Throat Chop does follow up from Roaring Moon. So Pelipper is down for the rest of this match. Gavin's going to need to switch something else in the back. Wave Crash, though, this is 2 resisted targets. Let's see just how resisted they are. And it does over half to Roaring Moon.
Doesn't look very resisted to me, Joe. That looks like a ridiculous amount of damage coming down. Here is the Pokemon, though, that Alberto was worried about. The Excalibur coming to the fore. I mean, it's going to be able to start hitting things for huge amounts of damage as well, and I don't know if there is enough on Alberto's side to really slow it down. Gavin trying to navigate around that paralysis as well. A little bit of priority isn't going to hurt anyone. If he gets to move, he's going to start picking out knockouts before there's any chance that something like the Roaring Moon could hit it, but it's going to keep itself safe.
Roaring Moon is going to protect on this turn for Alberto, so in case the Wave Crash goes into that slide, it's not going to take any damage. Excalibur as well is going to protect for Gavin there. So this Jet Punch has priority, but it is not going to do anything because it went towards the Roaring Moon attack. Only attack this turn is a Hydro Pump from Iron Bundle, but that goes into Excalibur's protect there instead of maybe a Freeze Dry into the Palafin, who's already half health.
Well, I will say, it looks like Alberto's really relying on this Palafin just not being able to move, right?
Oh,
he's ignoring that slot. That's a big double.
That's a big double for Alberto. Can it turn around if the Jet Punch or Ice Shard goes into that slot? Ice Shard, yes, that's 1 already in the benefit of Alberto's end. Wasting attack. Hydro Pump from the Iron Bundle into Excalibur. It's resisted. Even though the rain is up, like, it still does some solid damage, but the Wave Crash into the animation we see here, we know it is targeting into the Iron Bundle, bringing that down very low as well.
Still, that's a resisted hit. That's below half. At least the rain's gone, though, so those hits are going to be a little bit lighter from the Palafin. But it really feels like Gavin has this one on lock. As long as his Palafin keeps getting to move, he's able to keep playing the game. And what Alberto's been doing is targeting down the Palafin partner. You know, it was the Pelipper, now it's the Excalibur, and just hoping that Palafin gets caught by that paralysis and is not able to move. It's, you know, one kind of out that he has in the game, and the Klefki setting that up is probably his avenue to potentially getting back in this game, but he's still got to deal with the Iron Hands if he does get through this pair, and that's a lot of time for your Palafin to get paralyzed over and over again.
Yeah, paralysis is not something that you can rely on, but it is something you can play around. Alberto is going to terrestrialize his Iron Bundle into an Ice type right now. Jet Punch would not be resisted at this point anymore since he's no longer a Water type. He had to go for the triple protect, but he doesn't get it. Roaring Moon gets knocked out. So what is up with the Palafin? Does it get paralyzed on Gavin's end? Freeze Dry is actually faster anyway. It looks like he went for maybe the Wave Crash since there is no priority. Freeze Dry is not enough for a knockout on it, but Palafin does get paralyzed.
Yeah, that's something. That is a way, but it is now a very low health Iron Bundle against 3 over on the side of Gavin. So all he needs to do is connect a big attack into this Iron Bundle, and he's going to be able to take this game.
Looks like Gavin might play it safe if you want to protect Excalibur, expecting the Freeze Dry going into that slot, and that is exactly what Gavin does so. Does Alberto call the protect? Doesn't matter. Jet Punch breaks through paralysis here. He is going to get a very strong attack off, and that is game one. Gavin Michaels is one game away from realizing his dream of becoming international champion.
A commanding win, and I think what a lot of people coming into this matchup were expecting. There was no real way to handle the Palafin, but he played it very much perfectly, just being able to set that up at the end of turn one, maximize his use of the rain. Pelipper got involved with a knockout as well, so that was pretty cool. Nice to see Pelipper back on top. I know you're a fan, but being able to just command the game, not get paralyzed in any important or vital spot was absolutely huge there. And being able to land those monstrous wave crashes was really good. I think Gavin as well being able to lean on the jet punch when needed, just to make sure he got an attack off if he wasn't paralyzed, felt very, very solid. So it was kind of a clinic on how to play this team. He got that turn one pivot around with the Volt switch as well. And Alberto, yes, he managed to set up the reflect, but it really wasn't enough to slow things down.
And one thing that really hurt Alberto was having to double target the Pelipper because of its focus sash. And the benefit of that is obviously you're wasting an attack that doesn't go towards Palafin. But when you're focus sash Pelipper, you can just invest in your speed and special attack, and that Hydro Pump was able to cleanly knock out the Corviknight compared to maybe a more bulky Pelipper that would not have the damage output.
And that's a really nice build on the Pelipper. At that point, right, your goal is to come in, set up the rain for the Palafin, potentially add a little bit more with the Tailwind if you need it, but turning it on the offensive, going, you know what, I'm going to just Hydro Pump this Corviknight and get rid of it. It really upped the pace of the game, where other players may kind of be a little more cautious, right? Play the Tailwinds to make sure they can always wave crash first instead of having to rely on Jet Punch. Gavin just understood the assignment very, very well. Get the knockouts, and in those turns with the rain, just absolutely capitalized. I mean, the reflect was up the whole game. Alberto was kind of forced into that. Without the reflect, no chance he takes those hits, especially in the rain, especially with the fact it was the water Terra type on the Palafin as well. So Alberto's game plan is kind of locked in once again, right? He has to probably put up the reflect. He has to land a Thunder Wave as well at some point, and I think Gavin, as long as he's not fully paralyzed multiple turns in a row, would be able to seal this one up. There is a change in the lead, though, which may help with some of the damage output.
All right, so game two, it is Roaring Moon Klefki for the lead on Alberto's end versus Palafin and Baxcalibur for Gavin. Alberto is no stranger this week in the losing game one and then still coming out on top in the set.
He needs to find something a little bit different, and this Roaring Moon is the option he's gone for. The Roaring Moon definitely provides a little bit more offensively than that Corviknight that we saw in game number one, so he's probably trying to close Gavin down a little bit earlier than he did in the first game, where he's looking a little bit defensive with those kind of low damage output Brave Birds. I'll be honest, acrobatics from a Roaring Moon does a whole lot more than a Brave Bird from a Corviknight.
Yeah, but when you are flying type, or even as the dragon type at Roaring Moon is right now, those ice shards or potential ice attacks will be very difficult. Hopefully Reflect can help out a little bit there because these physical attacks are going to be there. But Acrobatics is actually used into the Iron Hand switch in, and Icicle Crash goes towards Roaring Moon. That's through Reflect, bringing it down into the red.
Once again, Reflect is keeping Alberto in the game a little bit, but it doesn't seem like it's enough. He's forced into this game plan where he's making sure that, he's not getting one-hit knockout every single turn, but the damage exchange is just so much in Gavin's favor. He gets a little bit of damage down on the Iron Hands. That's a big acrobatics, right? It's got no item, it's powered up. The Iron Hands typing does help it out a little bit, but it's still a decent chunk. Speaking of decent chunks, you're doing almost 80% to the Roaring Moon, which is now forced to switch out.
Yes, he has to bring Volcarona, and that is an adjustment I love to see. We didn't have time between games to bring it, but the Volcarona can actually be something that hits Palafin super effectively with its Terra Grass energy, or Giga Drain, excuse me. So the Ice Shard's not going to do a lot of damage from the Volcarona or onto it. Obviously, Fake Out is going to stop the Klefki from trying to go for a Thunder Wave, but maybe this turn, since Reflect is already up, Klefki can try to Thunder Wave the Baxcalibur slot.
Shutting down the Baxcalibur would be really big, really helpful. Obviously, doesn't want it to just be attacking for free, landing very powerful glaive rushes at some point. And I do like the Volcarona adaptation. I think it does a lot more for him, just with the typing alone than some of the other options. But it looks like Gavin is understanding that and, needs to use the Volcarona to shut down this pair on the board right now, because as soon as that Palafin comes back, it could cause some problems. Of course, the Terra types are going to mix things up, as it's going to be a Terra first for the Baxcalibur.
Terra Poison, which has been the adjustment that Gavin has made compared to G-Sock Lee's Regional Championship back in San Diego. This Thunder Wave does connect onto it, though, so even if you terrestrialize, you still can get paralyzed and not be able to move whatsoever on this turn. Does Baxcalibur break through? Alberto is hoping not. Quiver Dance is going to boost Volcarona's stats on the special attack, special defense, and speed by 1 stage, and it really comes down to what happens with Baxcalibur this turn. Volt switch into the Klefki so he can try to bring either the Palafin in or Pelipper to set up the rain, and he chooses Pelipper.
Gavin always likes to set up the Pelipper first, get the rain, make sure that you're in a position that even with the resisted hits, even with the reflect, you're doing preposterous amounts of damage every turn. Baxcalibur gets to move, though, and that is a good chunk down onto the Volcarona. Of course, it is going to be able to heal up a little bit, but that Volcarona is now very much threatened by a lot of the priority moves, such as the Jet Punch, unless it goes to the Terra typing of its own. I think the Volcarona has to be a candidate to really try and consider that and try and limit its damage. The problem is, you look at the Pelipper, right? The Pelipper's in the rain. If you go Terra Grass, you're just going to get caught by the Hurricane. So this really is Gavin trying to checkmate Alberto and say, whichever Pokemon you go with a Terra type for, I have the answer to it waiting on the field.
Yeah, and even if you go Terra Grass in front of Baxcalibur, you have Ice Shard as well. So against both of these Pokemon in Alberto's face, he really cannot afford to terrestrialize. His Roaring Moon is already very low as well, so that doesn't even look like that great of a candidate here. But the Giga Drain and Thunder Wave go into Pelipper's Protect, a beautiful protect from Gavin on this turn, which leaves Baxcalibur completely free to attack the Volcarona and knock it out.
Alberto got no value out of that Quiver Dance, being able to set that up and get that Pokemon going and ready to try and get these big knockouts was absolutely huge and kind of vital in Alberto's strategy. He's pulling the same thing he did in Game 1. He needs the paralysis to come through from that earlier Thunder Wave and make sure that the Baxcalibur can't get involved in the turn, can't Glaive Rush him. Then the Pelipper is able to cause some problems. So protecting the Pelipper and just giving himself a free turn, right? Saying, okay, you're going to double into the Pelipper. You know I've got the Focus Sash. He doubled into it last game, showed that off. Now he's saying, all right, you can waste your 2 attacks into that. I'm just going to hope that my Baxcalibur can move and catch you out.
Yeah, the Iron Hands is looking like it's going to be switched into the field for Gavin. So Baxcalibur will be saved, will be preserved for later on in this game. Can these 2 steel types that carried Alberto to the finals keep his hopes alive when he's already down a Pokemon? Klefki avoids the Hydro Pump. That's a way to not take any damage if Hydro Pump can't hit. Brave Bird is going to break Pelipper's Focus Sash, and because we didn't see the Thunder Wave, that means the Dazzling Gleam is going to connect onto both of those, bringing Iron Hands under half HP.
Alberto thinking back to his top 4. What took the KOs? It's Klefki. He's amping it up, getting those Dazzling Gleams going and getting those little bits of damage down. So that's going to be a nice little bit on both of them. Not really threatening the knockout right now, but we know how this Klefki does it. It likes to sit there and do little bits of damage, saving it for later. I actually quite like that. You want to Thunder Wave the important targets, the Baxcalibur and the Palafin. You've got to be fishing for those, paralysis turns and cause problems that way. You also just get away from this fake out.
Fake out doesn't matter because it went into Roaring Moon on the switch, as does this Hydro Pump. Alberto saying, please knock out my Roaring Moon. It is not going to help me at all in this matchup. So he is down to his final 2 Pokemon, his 2 steel types. Brave Bird is finally going to get a knockout. Pelipper is down, but really all this does is let Gavin get a free switch into either the Baxcalibur or the full health Palafin.
Yeah, the Palafin wants to take advantage of the rain that's still up as well from the Pelipper, so bring that in and start causing problems. One thing to note, Alberto hasn't used his Terra type yet, which could be the Corviknight, which is a Dragon Terra. Of course, that's going to, resist hits a lot better, but how much work can the Corviknight do? Of course, the Palafin kind of putting itself in harm's way a little bit with the Klefki on the field. Klefki may be able to Thunder Wave it and keep it out of the game. So it really is all about getting some of these full paralyses to come through pretty early. He's not even going for it, though. He's just trying to Dazzling Gleam, and I think Palafin is going to rise to the occasion.
The critical hit is going to take out Klefki 2 games in a row from Palafin. So now it is just this Corviknight in a really bad spot because his Brave Bird's only neutral. No crit on his end, doesn't knock out the Iron Hands. And you can't terrestrialize because the Ice type in Baxcalibur in the back will be able to mess with you as a Dragon type. But then if you don't, then you're taking the full brunt of the wave crashes.
Yeah, that was a tough choice. And Alberto has been pinned in both games 1 and 2 without being able to make those choices. So You know, I was thinking the Corviknight would need to buy some time now with the potential Dragon type, but you're correct. Baxcalibur's going to be able to close it up with a potential Ice Shard later in the game. I don't even know if Baxcalibur is going to need to make an appearance, though. It's probably going to get closed out pretty early on here. The rain is down, but, you know, he's got to do something. This, of course, is your tournament life on the line, and Gavin is in such a commanding position.
Alberto will not go out without a fight, and it is now Dragon type Corviknight. Obviously, this has helped him get this far in the tournament here in Oceania, so we'll see what it can do. Wave Crash, though, brings Corviknight down to under half HP. Even with the ineffective attack, still does a little bit. Corviknight is actually going to roost on this turn to get up back to close to full.
Yeah, really, really close, but the close combat is now going to go into it as well. Iron Hand's lowering its defenses is going to be a thing.
And because he's now a Dragon type, it's not like the normal roost interaction where you lose the flying type, you just become steel, close combat super effective. That Dragon meant close combat was neutral.
Yeah, and that definitely helped out. The Reflect is down, though, and Palafin is going to try and take advantage of that.
The damage recoil from Palafin is not going to be enough. Body press, though, into Iron Hands after the defense drops is obviously more than enough. So at least Alberto has brought it back to a 2-to-1 interaction. But Baxcalibur, all it has to do is break through paralysis one time and lock this game up.
Yeah, there's no way Corviknight can take another Wave Crash either. It just getting so low off that last one. Doesn't have time to weave in the roost.
Wave Crash from Palafin into Corviknight. That is a knockout, and Gavin's California Dreamin' has become a reality here down under. Gavin Michaels is your VGC 2023 Oceania International Champion.
An absolute masterclass for all the Pala fans out there, being able to show how this Pokemon can be executed so well. Perfect play in both games 1 and 2. Alberto did all he could to try and slow him down, really giving himself the best possible opportunity in what he considered an unwinnable matchup, but Gavin didn't get phased by any of that and put on an absolute show.
Yeah, that was really impressive. I think everything was impressive what we saw out of Gavin this entire weekend. He came on the stream starting strong on day 1, just wrecking Dondozos with his haze on Palafin. Then he comes in the next set, and it just shows that he is just as effective and very well practiced with this team of 6 that he brought. And then, you know, making quick work of the championship match here in the finals.
A very brisk 2-0. Obviously, he knew exactly what he had to do in the matchup, and he just did it. I think that's the best way to say it, is he just executed the team switching, moving things around. Did make the adaptation in game 2 as well, which really nicely kind of read into what Alberto was trying. Like, Alberto tried to up the ante a little bit with the Roaring Moon, but Gavin already had the answer there. That Baxcalibur did cause problems. It didn't get fully paralyzed at any point and really struggled to get involved in the game. I think that's really, it was a tough out for Alberto, looking and relying on those full paralyses, but you got to buy a ticket to win the raffle, Joe. Unfortunately, his number just wasn't drawn today.
Yeah, that is unfortunately the second time that Alberto Lara is going to finish an international championship in the finalist position. So obviously it's a bittersweet feeling. He's proud that he made it this far. I think everybody watching his tournament run, I think he had an early loss for Alberto on day 1 of Swiss. So for him to finish off strongly and making it here in second place, I think you can hold your head up high knowing that this, you know, if you ever played a fighting game, this is like a 2-8 matchup. It just felt like really difficult to try to break through.
Oh yeah, they even talked about it, the amount of sets they played and how few Alberto won when talking to them beforehand. So I think he knew coming in, he seemed pretty relaxed about it. Of course, a huge congratulations to him for making it this far, and another kind of congratulations for making it with a very interesting team, the kind of team that people are going to have to start looking at as they go forward in future events, because these are threats that you can't be ignoring anymore. Second place, fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, also, you want to think about it, Garchomp's the only Pokemon that didn't lose in that match, as he brought all 5 of his other Pokemon. So Garchomp's good name gets to stay clean, in my opinion.
Even though Garchomp watched on from the sidelines as it's
what's supposed to do against Baxcalibur with Ice Shard?
Not get hit by it. Wait for the full paralysis.
Wait for the paralysis.
To come through.
I do think though with Gavin, like, obviously there's one big goal left, right? 3-time regional champion, U.S. national champion, now international champion. Obviously, you know he's going to be gunning for or running for the title in Yokohama this summer. But for now, let's actually head over to the stage to get some words from our international champion, Gavin Michaels.
Yes, thank you too. I am here at your 2023 Oceania International Champion, Gavin Michaels. Congratulations. Well fought. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. I mean, this whole day has just been kind of like the lead up to this. Like, seriously, I've just been like sitting in the hotel room. Till then, it's just build up a lot of stress and nerves, and I'm just so happy. I'm just so happy.
I mean, you have some regional championship titles, but not the IC. So what does this moment mean to you?
I mean, this is crazy. Like I've said, I'm running out of words to say like just how much it means. I mean, for me, just being able to be like, I've been playing this game for over half my life now, or just under it, around that, and this is my biggest result to date. That's crazy to me. That it's like, I don't know. Like at this point, I shouldn't even be playing this, and here I am doing as good as I ever have been. So it's crazy to me.
And before this event, too, you're sitting at about 80 championship points. So this secures your invite to Worlds. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so now I'm #1 in the world in championship points, which is crazy because this is like the 4th biggest tournament to date, but like we take that. So I'm happy. I know how important it is to have that day 2 invite, like heading into Worlds, and not only to have that day 1 guaranteed, but now I'm set up really well to try to go for that day 2, which is something that I haven't done since 2017. So again, like, I can't believe I'm here.
And I know you've done a lot of shout-outs because you've done a lot of winning, but one final time, any final words?
Thank you, Lisa, for everything this weekend. Couldn't have done it without you. Thank you to everyone in Dub Nation for all the support this weekend, and thank you to Alberto for just like being a great friend and for a great finals opponent.
Thank you. Congratulations. Fantastically done. There's an award ceremony up soon, but we're going to send first to a quick break.
Thank you to all of our trainers who competed here at the 2023 Oceania International Championships.
What a fantastic international event. Thank you to all the players who competed in person and those who tuned in online. But now it is time to crown our champions and recognize our event's finalists.
Congratulations to our video game junior finalist, Takumi!
And give a big round of applause and congratulations to our video game junior champion, Seaira!
Next, our video game senior finalist, Tintin!
And give it up for our video game senior champion, Benjamin!
And now, in our Masters division, our video game Masters finalist, Alberto Lara.
And a big round of applause for the video game Masters champion, Gavin Michaels! Let's give another round of applause for all of the 2023 Oceania International Champions finalists. Let's go.
Thank you once again to all who competed this weekend across the Pokemon video game, the Pokemon trading card game, and Pokemon Go.